Welcome to NIOS. Myself, Dr. Yukti Sharma from Department of Education, University of Delhi, will discuss about development of values in children with you today. In your previous sessions, you must have discussed about values. And so before beginning with talking about how to develop values in children, we would try to understand how values are defined. Now, values could be professed values, that is, value that we believe in. Believe in means that's something which has been passed to us from previous generations, what have been told to us by our communities, and we start believing in those values, like for example honesty or faithful behavior. On the other hand, there are values which are called operational values, which we bring it in our practice. Now, it is not necessary that the values that we believe in, we do practice in those values also, and therefore these values are important, because these are the values which we bring into practice. It is possible for us to bring them in our day-to-day life. The third kind of values are what we learn from experience in order to adapt and renew traditions received from the past traditional values. Now, these values are important because these are those values which we learn from our own experience. So, it could be very personal to us, it could be very individual to us, because professed values could be values which are belonging to a particular community, and therefore, we are also getting them or we believe in them because we belong to a particular community. But values which are coming out of our own experiences are those values which we ourselves want to develop or we ourselves want to believe in, because we think that these values could be beneficial for us or for others in our society. Now, why these values are important? The values are important because first is that they have a major influence on the behavior and action of a person as well as its goals. So, whatever we aspire for in our life or whatever we do in our day-to-day life depends on what we believe in, what values we believe in. Similarly, the decisions that we take in our day-to-day life depends on what kind of values that we believe in. So, every part of our life, every phase of our life, every minute in our life, we have to take lots of decisions and steps which are totally based on the values that we believe in. Second is that values can be developed through the processes of learning within various institutions of the society. Now, this has been proved that values are developmental. It is not that we are born with, it is that we learn them through our primary and secondary socializations. So, if we can learn them in interaction with our community, in interaction with our school, it itself proves that the values could be developed. Now, what kind of interactions these are, what kind of experiences these are, that has to be looked into, and which we are going to discuss today in this particular session. The third thing is that values are important as they directly have a role in integrating the society by directing the goals of its individuals. Now, values have a major role in a community or in a society because the values that the community members have, they influence other community members. For example, if I am honest, that will have an effect on people who are around me, because they could take certain steps or could interact with me because they know that I am honest, and my honesty, my faithfulness is going to give them certain rights. So, if I am similarly, if I am non-violent, that ensures security around two people who are around me. So, my values are influencing other people's in many ways. My positive values are securing certain rights for them. And so, values may be individual, but their influences, their significance, their importance is not only for the individual, but also for the community and the society in which the individual is residing. Now, there could be many list of values, and in fact, I believe in that values keep evolving. It is the society in which we are living in, it is the time in which we are living in. tells us which values are important, because value itself, the word itself says value. So what we value in today's times is a value, and hence we can't have a comprehensive list of what values we are looking for in our children. So I have listed some of the examples of values like self-control, truth, cooperation, courage, empathy, authenticity, compassion, devotion, which are simply some examples of values, and the list can just be expanded depending on which context you are working in and with whom you are working with. So, we will not go into the details of these values, because I believe that in previous sessions you have been interacting and listening about what are the various values and how do we look into these values. We will focus on how these values could be developed. Now, before talking about development, it is important to understand that values are not taught, but they are caught. Now, what does that mean? For example, taking example of Gandhi. Now, Gandhi, we all know, we have seen in the movie also, we have read in his autobiography also, that he had seen the drama of Harish Chandra, who is considered to be one of the truthful person in our society, in the Indian society, and this drama had an indelible impact on his mind. And from that onwards, he said, Gandhi confesses that he adopted the path of truth for the whole of his rest of life. Now, this episode from his autobiography, this anecdote, shows that any kind of an experience can have impact on our mind, on the way we think. Now, this experience could be varied. For Gandhi, it was the experience of drama, seeing a drama about a personality who was believed to be truthful throughout his life. So, for us, for all of us, it could be any kind of experience, and hence values can't be directly taught, but when we are experiencing something, we catch it. You know, we catch it means we imbibe it, we start thinking about it, we start valuing it. So, therefore, when we are talking about development of values, we simply can't preach it or directly give a lecture on it, but we have to create certain experiences that talk about, that present, that prove the value of, the significance of those values. And hence, the next point that we are going to talk about, the effort of school or the teachers to inculcate such values amongst the children or students becomes very important, because it's the teachers, it's the school who creates experiences for the learners, and these experiences would be meaningful only when they are in sync with the environment of the school and also the conduct of the teacher. That is, for example, if we are showing an experience to children, we are showing that how certain people have self-control in their life, how they are socially bold and they can speak their mind, they have their own original ideas. But on the other hand, in the school we see that the school has a very rigid environment where children are not allowed to speak their mind, where children are not allowed to share their ideas, where children's ideas are not important. Then the environment of the school will be contradicting the whole idea that we are trying to share through that experience. Similarly, the conduct of the teacher. If the teacher is in fear of the other authorities, if the teacher is in fear of other people around him or her, then obviously the teacher being a role model, her conduct becomes a role model for the children, would again contradict the experience that we want to create for the children. And hence, whatever experience that we want to share with the children, it should be in sync with the whole environment of the school and also the conduct of the teacher. And therefore, along with the experience, along with the teacher, it's the entire school that has to participate in the process. Therefore, the school ethos is very, very important. And therefore, when we talk about how to develop values in children, we have to understand that it has to be through various means or mediums in schools. Why? Because It's not one experience which is going to develop values in children. Develop values in children means at least they start thinking about that value. And the other thing is that what we discussed just now, that it should not contradict with the other components of the school. And hence each component of the school has to be aligned with this objective. The set of activities, they have to be embedded within the regular school processes. So it should not be that we have a special class where they are talking about values, all kinds of values, and in the other classes we just see contradicting episodes being happening. So that should not happen, and that's why we don't need a separate class to preach or to teach about values. It should be embedded within every class that we have in our school, whether it's a mathematics class or it's a geography class or it's a drama class. In every class we should see that what values are we promoting, and that could happen. The kind of content that we are selecting, the kind of activities that we are planning, how we are planning a group activity, and how are we looking at the coordination within the group, how are we looking at the equality within the group, how are we looking that every child is feeling wanted in the classroom, every child is feeling accepted in the classroom. So all that has to be present in every class, and not that in one particular class. The other thing is that each activity should have a context, as each individual functions within a context. Now, when we are acting according to or behaving according to our values, it does happen in a particular social context. It's not that we are having a separate time in our life where we are practicing our values. Then those are short-lived, and those don't have influence in our major sections of our life, major parts of our life. And that is why the context is very important. Otherwise, without context, if we are trying to understand value or trying to think about values, we may not be able to practice in a day-to-day life, because every phase of our life is embedded in a particular context, in a particular situation. And none of the situations should deter us from practicing the values in which we believe in. Last is that activities should be based on the premises that children already have values innately present in them, and there is a need to create experiences and opportunities that could encourage children to put them into practice. So this is very important. We should not think as if children don't know anything. Children already are in the process of thinking about values. They already keep thinking, what should I do, what should I not do, what is correct for me, what is not correct for me. They are always engaged with such questions which are definitely oriented towards what values are, which take them to this question, what a value for me is in this particular situation, in this particular context. So it's already in them. What is required is how we can encourage them, how we can give them positive feedbacks, those opportunities that reinforce that yes, what you are thinking is correct in a particular situation, and therefore this is an important value for you. Now, taking some practices from the school, one of the most important practices in school is morning assembly. Now, we know that morning assembly, the school starts with it, and we know that morning assembly sometimes become very ritualistic, because we do a prayer, we give a thought of the day in that, and some announcements would be there in the morning assembly. So all this, when it is monotonous and the same thing is repeated every day, the students know what is going to come next. So everything is very predictable for them, and that's why they lose interest in that. Now, if we are going to create a variety of activities in the morning assembly, definitely children are going to look forward to that what is there for us today, So it could be a storytelling, it could be a discussion, it could be an interactive session with some person who has been invited, who has been working for a social cause. It could be a short play of 5 to 10 minutes which has been planned by some class students who are interested in drama and play. Or it could be simply a session on introspection, where the teachers take the initiatives of putting some questions to students and see how they think, see how they think about their own life, their self, their identity, where they are coming from. So, it is very important sometimes to sit and introspect. Now, if we have these varieties of activities where we are having a storytelling, suppose about a child who follows a particular value and how the child's life progresses, how he has to fight in his life for that particular value. I mean, all that stimulates the child to think about those values and think about oneself also, that what am I doing in my life. So, these questions are important for the children to think. It is important that what innately is present in them, it should come out. We are bringing what the best in the child, which is already there in the child, and not preaching and burdening the child from outside. What I think correct, I should not assume that it would be correct for the child also, because child has a different background, different socio-economic, cultural background. So, some other value could be more beneficial, would be more significant for that child, and that space should be given. So, it should be an open space where the child can think on their own, the children can think on their own, keeping in mind their own context. The next is we could have some large group interactions. Now, coming down to some smaller groups, we can plan some interclass activities.